All right, so we have amazing speaker today, Bill Spencer. Bill, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hirumi, and good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Spencer. Some of you may know me as the founding customer program manager on Microsoft Teams. My team and I helped many of you adopt Microsoft Teams as early as 2016. Thank you to those early adopters who provided such great feedback. Recently, Rajesh Jha, the Executive Vice President for Microsoft 365, officially added Copilot Extensibility to my team's responsibility. After all, for over a year, we unofficially helped dozens of customers like yourselves to create line of business applications that integrated Copilot with Teams. These customers realized impressive productivity gains. And today, I'm going to share with you the best practices we learned. I'm excited to describe the why and the when of customizing Copilot so your organizations can gain competitive advantage. And here's the best news. It's easy to do many of the most powerful customizations of Copilot. Let's get started. If you've attended or watched recent Microsoft conferences like Ignite 2023 or Build 2024, you have seen case studies from some of the tens of thousands of companies customizing Copilot today. These Copilot solutions range from employee-facing solutions to customer-facing solutions. The best way to gain competitive advantage today is to either grow revenue or reduce costs using Copilot. Now, this slide reflects the benefits of generative AI from a survey of over 1,300 customers completed in May by McKinsey & Company. It shows adoption of generative AI is surging, in their words, with 72% of the respondents to the survey using generative AI already. And we're only 18 months after the launch of Copilot, and there are already companies in your industry realizing business value, and those benefits extend across many functional areas. The way to read this slide is on the left side are a list of functional areas within an organization. And then in the center is a chart for the cost savings and the revenue gains. So the way to read this is, for example, for marketing and sales, 37% of the survey respondents have already received some cost savings, and 14% of those have seen cost savings of 10% or more. Similarly, on the revenue side, 58% have already seen revenue gains, and 19% have seen revenue gains of 10% or more. So let's see how you can use Copilot to deliver similar benefits to your company. The focus of Copilot is the user. It's all about serving as a partner to help the user get work done. That's why we call it Copilot and not something like Autopilot. Copilot starts with the information that Microsoft has indexed by crawling the web. So all of the web search data is available to answer questions that your users might have. But it's even more powerful if we add in the data on Microsoft Graph specific to that user, their team, and your organization. And then there's an increasing number of applications that are also providing data to Copilot. So by default, Copilot responds to user prompts using knowledge from web search, users' files, Outlook, Teams data in M365, and from a growing set of Microsoft and third-party applications. But what we'll talk about today is how you can make Copilot even more powerful to your users with additional content, skills, and workflows. So let's see an example from the recently announced Agent Builder feature of Copilot Studio.
Let's start in BizChat, where we can open a simple agent for a field service technician. Say you're on site and you get an error code you've never seen before. You built a field service agent for exactly this. It has access to all your product knowledge and can give you step-by-step instructions in real time. Now watch how simple it is for anyone to create the agent we just saw and add it to Copilot. You fire up the Agent Builder and describe what you want the agent to do. It needs to be able to reason over your product catalog and repair tickets to provide step-by-step troubleshooting instructions. Let's connect it to SharePoint so it has access to all the knowledge it needs. It's built in seconds, so you can start using it immediately, or edit and configure it to fit your needs. You can expand its knowledge base, adding other files or folders, or connecting it to additional data sources. And you can update its name or image to align with your company's branding. So let's do that. You can test the agent right here, or just hit create and you're done. And of course, the agent respects your organization's Microsoft 365 and SharePoint security permissions. Now your Copilot agent is ready in BizChat, and you can share it with your team. Let's see the same scenario, but starting from SharePoint, right where you're working. If there's an issue that requires further research and follow-up, your team keeps all its customer records from deployment to maintenance reports on this SharePoint site. It's a wealth of valuable insights that's largely been locked away, hard to glean until now. With Copilot Studio, you can create an agent in a single click from any SharePoint site, library, or folder. This agent will deeply understand the information it was built on. It can answer questions about source material, reason over that material, and take action, just like a well-informed teammate would. This is so much bigger than natural language search. In just a few seconds, your Copilot agent is ready to be used or shared with others. Let's add it to your team's chat so everyone can work together with this agent. Now all those artifacts in SharePoint are immediately accessible and useful, so Copilot can reason over all the relevant content to find what your team needs. You can mention the agent as you would any other teammate, sharing new information and asking it questions, and it will respond in real time. Now let's take it a step further. Now we'll go ahead and edit the agent we just built so it can take action on behalf of the team. First, open your agent in Copilot Studio. Here, you can add additional knowledge the agent will have, as well as the actions it can take. You want it to be able to place an order for new parts with your procurement team. Let's connect it to Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management. You're ready to update the agent and bring it back to the Teams chat where you were working on solving the customer's issue. Let's ask the agent to order the part it recommended. Your agent is on it, asking you to confirm before moving forward. And once you've given it the go-ahead, it's done. As simple as that.
Now, that's cool technology. I saw there was a question about why you haven't seen Agent Builder yet in your Copilot Studio. And that's because this is rolling out over the next few weeks. So coming soon to a Copilot Studio near you is the cool Agent Builder technology that we just talked about. But let's talk about the technology stack underlying what we just saw, because if you understand what's going on, you can use these simple low-code, no-code tools more effectively. So we'll start with the bottom up, and foundational models are the basis of all AI. And these include the language models that can do visual processing, language processing, text generation, and code writing. So by default, Copilot's foundational model is the Prometheus AI model, which incorporates 3 LLMs from our partner, OpenAI. That's ChatGPT-4, ChatGPT-4o, and DALL-E 3. The second layer is Orchestrator. And the Orchestrator is really the brains of Copilot. It receives the prompt from the user and then synchronizes the processing of the prompt across the layers of the stack. And finally, it displays the results in the Copilot user experience. The third layer is the knowledge layer. And this is the information over which Copilot can reason to answer users' prompts. The knowledge starts with the vast corpus of web search knowledge and M365 data to which the user has access within your trust boundary. And we'll discuss how you can focus or expand Copilot's native semantic understanding to relevant responses. Fourth layer is triggers. Triggers take proactive action and kick off automations. Triggers respond to events or messages to do specific actions. Triggers can be internal based on changes within a system. So, for example, in the context of software development, a trigger might be set to initiate when a workflow as someone checks in new code. Triggers can also respond to events outside the primary system. For example, a business application might have a trigger set up to react to a new record being added to a database. These external triggers behave like webhooks. The fifth layer is actions. Actions are tasks that Copilot can perform on behalf of the user. Actions are all about calling out to external systems. Actions can be somewhat analogous to federated API calls for Copilot. And then the top layer is workflow instructions. And we saw this in the demo. They drive the desired response from Copilot that can include guidelines on how Copilot should behave and its scope. Microsoft provides intuitive no-code and low-code tools to create these workflows. And you can also use Pro Code to go as far as you want in terms of customizing Copilot, and we'll show that. But it's important that citizen developers can also use the tools like Copilot Studio to specify data sources and provide workflow instructions to pull together the agents that we just saw. So let's see another example of the agent builder feature coming soon to Copilot Studio.
Creating your own agent is incredibly simple with Copilot Studio. Let's say I want to create an agent to serve as an HR agent for Contoso. I start by simply describing my agent and what it will do in natural language. I also ask for it to be friendly and remain professional at all times. I'll point my agent to Contoso's website so employees can ask questions about the company with the answers generated in real time based on the knowledge alongside all the pre-existing knowledge baked right into the agent. And finally, I can even specify things I don't want the agent to talk about. Great! Now I can instantly test out my agent right here and iterate on my instructions to further refine my agent as needed. Let's ask, do employees receive an award after 5 years with the company? As you can see, my agent was able to find the information on the website and generated a contextual answer to my question. I can even ask follow-up questions, like how long will it take for it to arrive? And my agent is smart enough to know the context of what I'm asking about. Okay, this looks great. And just like that, my new agent has been created. I can see the instructions generated by my previous answers, and I can easily make changes and iterate on these anytime I need to. The first thing I want to do is give my agent some more knowledge. As well as the public website I added earlier, I can add SharePoint sites, upload files, or point it to structured data in Dataverse or the Microsoft Graph. I can also leverage thousands of connectors to pull in data from third-party systems. For example, I have information related to training courses held in Dataverse, and I can easily add this to my agent by using the new Dataverse knowledge source. I simply choose whichever tables I want to add, and in this case, I'll choose training course information. That's it. I've now equipped my agent with more information and I can test it right away. Let's ask, what new training courses have been added in the last month? I can see in the citation that the information came from my Dataverse tables, and the agent pulled the answer from just the right relevant rows in my table. Now I can go ahead and publish this to get it in the hands of employees right away. After just a few seconds, my agent is published and I can enable it on a wide variety of channels like websites or mobile apps, or in this case, Microsoft Teams, which I can turn on in just a click, enabling employees to get their questions answered instantly in Teams where they work every day.
So what you saw in the demo are 3 different ways, options, if you will, for extending Copilot: connectors, plugins, and agents. Think of these as 3 steps in terms of levels of sophistication. Connectors bring additional semantic grounding to the graph. These are the easiest because no development is required, and yet they're so powerful because you can push line of business system data directly into the index of the Microsoft Graph. Plugins are a way to perform actions by calling out to a system via an API or a block command. Plugins are particularly useful when you need real-time data or when accessing relational data. They require some development. And then finally, agents. They allow you to provide custom workflow instructions, as we just saw in the Agent Builder demo, and you have a choice of no-code, low-code, and pro-code options for creating these agents. For the rest of the presentation, I'll delve deeper into why you would use each of these options and when you would choose a connector over a plugin over an agent. And let's start with connectors. There are 4 kinds of Copilot connectors: for Microsoft Graph, for Microsoft Fabric, for Microsoft Dataverse, and for other external systems. We saw earlier how a connector pulled in tables of data from Microsoft Dataverse. Now, I'm going to talk most about graph connectors because they are special. Graph connectors bring the indexing power of Microsoft Search to inject knowledge inside of Copilot, and no development is required and no prompt engineering is required. So they're a great place to start. Graph connectors are also the only extensibility option that stores data within your Microsoft 365 trust boundary for ongoing value and reuse. So when would you use a graph connector? Well, unstructured data is really where graph connectors shine. A graph connector makes the most sense to bring in document repositories, websites, content management systems, and knowledge bases. An important benefit of using a graph connector is you don't have to plan which prompts your users will ask. A graph connector allows you to index the content in a vector database in a way similar to web search, and using all the power that web search has developed, your users can ask Copilot questions in many different ways and generally get great results. But the flexibility of a graph connector comes with some limits. By default, graph connectors support up to a total of 50 million items with a per connector limit of 5 million items. So graph connectors are designed for systems that do not update frequently. In session 2 in this series, which I hope you'll sign up for, we will describe how to create graph connectors in detail. But let's demo one created by our partner, Tiger Hall. So Tiger Hall curates and licenses a knowledge base of articles and videos of industry best practices. This type of unstructured data is ideal for a graph connector. Any employee can get up to speed quickly using Tiger Hall's bite-sized professional content. Using a connector, companies can index all of Tiger Hall content in their M365 graph for easy reference. Now, the next few videos are silent, so I'm going to voice over as we see what goes on the screen. But the prompts can be a little hard to capture as they're typed in. So I'm going to have these preview slides. In this case, there's 2 prompts. How can I negotiate more strategically? What is operational scalability? And notice the benefit of a connector. There's no need for the user to @mention Tiger Hall specifically. And in contrast, you'll see with plugins and agents, people generally will @mention those options. So let's look at this.
Stay ahead of the curve and leverage Tiger Hall's integration with Microsoft Copilot to drive change with speed, scale, and agility, all within your Microsoft working environment. How can I communicate change without the panic? How can I negotiate more strategically? Get the advice, knowledge, and know-how from more than 2,500 business leaders in the moment, and exactly when you need it with Tiger Hall and Copilot. Lead the change and drive initiatives and strategic projects with Copilot's capabilities and Tiger Hall's extensive resources. Immerse yourself in bite-sized need-to-know information and insights that will help you succeed in the Tiger Hall app, all within Microsoft 365, Teams, and Outlook. Experience Tiger Hall with Microsoft Copilot today.
Tiger Hall is one of the hundreds of graph connectors already available for Copilot out of the box, and more of these are being released every week. All right, let's talk about plugins. So these are actions that integrate your app's workflows and automations into Copilot. And a plugin can be used across many different agents. So they're really the building block of agents. Plugins are designed for real-time data. With a plugin, you can set parameters to access relational data via an API. If you're dealing with a system larger than the 5 million item limit for connectors, then plugins are going to be the best option. But unlike connectors, plugins rely on you, the developer, to understand with precision the prompts your users are going to ask. For example, show me the latest issues I'm assigned to, or what are the latest orders? Plugins can summarize the data available through an API, and they offer the option to update that external source system. So if you want to integrate a system into Copilot that already has an API with create, read, update, and delete capabilities, develop a plugin. You'll need to wrap the API in an OpenAI spec and provide a plugin manifest. We'll demonstrate the details on how to develop Copilot plugins in session 3 of this series. The best candidates for plugins are what you'd expect: accounting, CRM, ERP, and similar highly transactional systems. If you have these systems within your organization or you're a commercial developer looking to integrate such a system, then plugins are going to be the best fit. Let's see an example of a Copilot plugin in action. Templify is a partner that automates document creation within Microsoft 365 to remove the risk and increase efficiency because the templates are pre-approved, on-brand, and compliant. Templify created a Copilot plugin and you'll see in this scenario, the user asks for a summary of communications with the customer. There's an opportunity to create a sales contract. They'll make a specific app mention for Templify, and then Templify responds with a choice of a basic or an advanced template, and then displays this data about the customer. It's pulled from M365. With the user's confirmation, it then takes that out to the Templify system and creates a sales contract based on that data. And you can see it here in Word. So it's a great solution for improving productivity and consistency. Now, at this point, you may be expecting me to list all the Copilot plugins available, and there are dozens. But think of plugins as an ingredient for agent, because any user-facing plugin is going to be part of an agent. So let's talk about agents, our third and most comprehensive option for customizing Copilot. Where connectors and plugins generally widen the scope of what Copilot is able to do for you, agents give you the choice of focusing on specific business context and apps, or they can provide nuance or prioritize which data sources to use, specifying connectors and plugins. By default, Copilot offers the broad awareness and knowledge of your organization that you'd expect of anyone in the organization. But organizations also need specialists. So if you have a legal or an HR question, you don't want to just ask anyone. You're going to want to ask an HR manager or a lawyer. And that's what declarative agents allow you to do, is to specify how Copilot will respond in the persona of a lawyer or in the persona of an HR agent or any particular expert within an organization. Declarative agents are the most common kind, but we'll talk about a few other kinds towards the end. The custom instructions that you provide with a declarative agent include, at a minimum, a natural language instruction that creates the personality, behavior, or specialization of an agent. You can also point to additional data to ground your agent. And we saw this with the Agent Builder demo using SharePoint to unlock the value of that vast repository of information stored in your files, or in the case of reaching out to Fabric to pull in additional information. So through plugins and connectors, you can specify external data sources that you want your agent to prioritize, such as Dataverse. Working with early adopters in the private preview, what we've seen are these sweet spots for when you would use a declarative agent. When you want focus or specialization, you're targeting specific roles, as I've talked about. you're scoping to specific data sources, or you want to prioritize those to provide a more nuanced interpretation of the data received. Let's demo a declarative agent created by Adobe for their Adobe Express graphics product. So in this scenario, the user is receiving a marketing brief and commits to creating a video from that brief. And they make a specific call out to the Adobe Express declarative agent in order to create that. Adobe Express iterates with a few questions and creates this cool video based on the text of the marketing brief. And working now within Adobe Express, the user customizes the video further. And then shares it back out with their colleagues and teams. You can find dozens of agents created by partners like Adobe and also those by Microsoft in the store. And you can build your own declarative agents using Copilot Studio. So let's close by grounding what we have learned about the three options for customizing Copilot, connectors, plugins, and custom agents in the framework of the Copilot technology stack that we started with. And this time, we're going to start at the top, and you'll see in blue highlighted for each of these options. In the case of connectors, they operate at the knowledge layer, but the M365 ID, the entry points across M365, the orchestrator, and the foundational model, those are all consistent with the default Copilot experience. In the case of plugins, they're operating at the actions layer, and again, everything else is the default for Copilot. Now, with declarative agents, with those workflow instructions, you are focusing or adding nuance to the response. So at a base layer, a declarative agent is going to have those workflow instructions that create specialization or personality. But you can also use a declarative agent to pull in content from outside sources using plugins or with additional data sources using connectors. And the option for the declarative agent is as powerful as you want it to be on top of Copilot, or you can also create agents, and this is really a pro code option, using the Azure OpenAI API for a choice of different language models. In this case, you'd want to use the Entra ID, and you can see you can customize quite a few different layers of the stack. In the case of professional developers, going all the way to creating a Copilot application in their own user experience with their own ID, but they've customized every layer, still taking advantage of the M365 data that your user has access to within your trust boundary. So there's a lot of power here available to developers, but also simplicity for citizen developers using tools like the Copilot Studio. So in summary, in this first session, I provided an overview of why you would use Copilot extensions and when you would choose between each one of them. Additional knowledge with connectors, integrating with APIs via plugins, and then pulling it all together or providing specific focus with agents. So please go register today for sessions 2 and 3 so you can learn how to extend Microsoft Copilot to improve your users' productivity and to deliver real business value to your users.